today's world, we are all teachers and we are all students. And I think that's the shift that we're seeing happening today. There's that boundary line in the middle that's blurring because we all have something to share. We're all passionate. We all have our own curiosity, our own knowledge, and our own wisdom. And what this really allows to happen is that you can learn anytime, anywhere, from anyone about whatever subject you like. And I think the question to ask is, how do we bring our own curiosity into that equation, and where does that really fit in on our own learning path? When we talk about learning and education, I think those are two different things as well. Education is something that you're told to do. That's something that you have to do. It's more of a top-down kind of system, whereas learning is something you do for yourself. It's more about self-fulfillment and finding out your passions. So for me, I found that it's about making your own path and really shaping your own learning. There is no correct answer in this journey, and that's kind of the key. It's not a prescribed path. It's not something that you really have to go down any certain avenue. It's wide open, and it's not one size fits all, which is great because it all allows us to develop in our own ways. For me, this is my kind of desk in middle school and in high school, and for me, I kind of started out doing crafts and with my parents, my mom, and my dad was a photographer, and kind of had that creative starting point. And in high school and middle school, I started writing business plans for web design businesses and started getting that entrepreneurial spirit going as well. And then in high school, really had the opportunity to start doing design, lighting design for theatrical productions. And these paths just kind of kept leading to the next thing. So from there, I started doing posters for the theater shows, and it was really about going outside of the classroom and learning to do new things. So it's about shaping your own learning and taking an active role in that. It's not something you can really do passively. As you're going down this path, it's also about building out your own ecosystem and environment for you to live in and to play in and to fail in. And this was the design lab at the Hartford Art School where I graduated about a year ago from. And it's that environment that really helps to shape us. I think Furman's a great example of that. You have this support system, and it's those conversations that you have in the dining hall or over a meal, or the professor you run into, or the practicing professional that you talk to on the internet, and kind of get to learn new things through that. So it's what you work on, what you're learning, all those sorts of things. For me in art school, kind of start off with a foundations year at the Hartford Art School, and we did painting and drawing and sculpture and all these things I had never really done before, and that really helped to shape the lens that I now see the world through that creative eye. But as we kind of went on, I started doing things outside of the classroom as well. So I worked on freelance projects and connected with different people in San Francisco and Chicago and New York, and worked on projects with them. And that's where a lot of the learning happened for me, outside of the classroom. Started working on educational projects, rethinking what the future of education looked like while being still in the education system, and that proved to be a really exciting challenge. I think as I went through this, I realized that a lot of what I was learning was by doing. So by working on these projects, it's kind of about failing and experimenting and playing. So when you fail on a test, it's kind of the end of the journey for that part of it. But when you kind of fail on the project, it's really just a hiccup, and you're really able to learn from that and advance and go on to the next stage and learn from that failure. I think it's really important to embrace that in learning today. It's also, when you're doing things, you're probably doing them with others, which really brings out this skill of collaboration, which is really important in today's world. So I was walking home from work a couple months ago and realized that all these things I had done in the past kind of equal, somehow they just got this equation formed in my head, and they equal what I do today. So I work at an education company that's using technology and design to solve some of the learning problems. And it's a very entrepreneurial-minded company. And so all those things kind of equal to what I'm doing today. So I work at Skillshare, which is a global online community for classes. And one of my roles there is to be the dean of the design school. So I'm really shaping out a curriculum and went from being in a design school where it wasn't really that control over what I was learning. It was, that prescribed path was there. But here, it's really thinking about the progression, and it's a sandbox to play within. And so I think the key here is that students on Skillshare are learning by doing, but I'm also learning by doing still. And the company, it's about that culture that people can fail and play, and we're still figuring out how to build a school of design on the internet. So yeah, and these are some of the posters that from a rock poster design class. So the students, are learning by doing as well. So I think the question is, what do you do with what you learn? Where do you take that? What's the next thing? And how is that really productive and sustainable at the end of the day? Because that's where we want to keep moving towards. So I think as we're all going down our own learning paths, it's also about that collective path together where we see the synthesis of all our paths overlapping and that collective future starts to develop. I think it's you start to see you're learning within a community and around community. Your learning builds community in a very special way, which I think is really great. So moving forward, I think it's important to embrace the uncertainty of your path forward and to really follow your curiosity. Thank you.